What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from hashtag Be the Change. And of course, an episode of Blunt Force Discussion, a digital episode. As this is, we have conversations about a wide range of topics, anything from politics to regular life to business. I'm pretty excited about this episode. I wanted to get this gentleman in person. We were trying to figure that out. I don't do the in person shows right now, maybe coming back soon. In the meantime, we're going to do a digital version with Bobby Sausalito, aka Take Naps. We're gonna have a lot of fun. If you've ever watched any of his content or comedy, etc., you're gonna know what you're getting yourself into and what you're getting yourself into for this show. I'm not going to do a huge intro or anything like that. We'll talk about some of our sponsors throughout, but in the meantime, it's time to start an episode of Blunt Force Discussion. Got to make sure we talk about our sponsors on this episode of Blunt Force Discussion. First off, thedrartistshow.com. You can see it on the bottom if you're watching. BFD at checkout for 10% off. A lot of different products to help you either not get sick, deal with the coof, all the different things. So make sure you go to thedrartistshow.com. BFD at checkout for 10% off. That gives us a little bit of credit as well. If you're interested in going to the Great American Summit or learning more about it, go to greatamericansummit.com. Tickets are 10% off with the discount code GAS23. One of our original guests, Tony Van Schoik, go to tony.mymonate.com if you'd like any of the hair care products. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Things have been looking good since day one, since I've been using MONAT products. And also, if you'd like to set up a business and make it a side business, obviously network marketing is huge right now. So go ahead and go to tony.mymonate.com for more info. Last but not least, guys, if you want to support this show, please go to patreon.com/blunt force discussion. We're essentially doing this by scrapping all the different things together. We could use your help. Also gives a little bit more access directly to me. And last but not least, I'm rocking, what do I got on right now? I got the They Both Suck shirt, making fun of both parties because they do both suck. You can go to awakenotwokestore.com. Use Awake for 15% off. We do have some new stuff coming up soon. You'll see it. So just check that out for us. Thanks, guys. That's our sponsors. Let's get back to the show. Bobby Sauce, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Fantastic. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. You just left the gym. What were you you said you got some back issues right now. What were you wailing on at the gym tonight?
Just doing the elliptical and the stairs and the elliptical, the classics. Lifting, I lifted a little too much, tweaked my back out. So hopefully I'll be back next week on that. So in the meantime, stairs and elliptical it is.
You're about 2 years away by that sound of being in a Zumba class. I was on the elliptical. I did.
Yeah. Zumba, honestly, Zumba actually seems kind of cool. I love to dance, but I just think it's kind of weird, the setup and just the whole process. But I feel like that actually would be kind of cool.
You know, I talked a lot of trash to Shemaine Nugent, Ted Nugent's wife, when I had her on Blood Force Discussion, because she's like this known Zumba instructor, and she's like, "What do you mean old?" Okay, moving on. All right, you guys own a lot of guns and bows and arrows, so let's just skip that conversation.
Yeah, I have a friend that I went to high school with that teaches Zumba classes, and she's like one of the best dancers I've ever seen, and it looks pretty awesome, and keeps in great shape, and it's like, hey, if that sounds kind of fun. I wish it was harder.
Yeah,
it's like it always kind of looks kind of like middle-aged womany, which is, maybe I don't know. I think I would need to go to like a Billy Blanks or something like that. That might age me, that comment, but
all I think of as Billy Blanks is the nipple outside of the spandex. I just feel
it's good that's your first thought.
Did you know that, not that I want to have this conversation, but you know that Suni that was on Some of the Truth, that was actually Billy Blanks' niece.
Yeah, no, yeah. I actually didn't think of that when I just said that.
Yeah.
I just said it because that was a popular fitness exercise at the time. But yeah, I actually did know that, yes.
But not that we're going to talk about her, but we're going to talk about something related to that, because we're going to talk everything politics, a little bit about current events, the status of Republican politics, and even kind of Democrat politics across the board. But I want to get first started. For those that don't know you on our channel and have watched this, give a little rundown of who you are, who you were, and then how you got into this crazy world of being a political influencer slash comedian.
Well, I was a web developer for 13 years, ran a web development business out of my house right here on this computer behind me, was building websites and listening to politics because I just cared about it. I cared about the future of the country and whatnot. And I just made a funny Instagram that went viral in August of 2020. I decided to shelve all of the client work that I had in my web development business and make videos about politics. And that has spread into being an ambassador for Turning Point USA, to going to a number of live events, to speaking at events like the Great American Summit and Turning Point Student Action Summit, and then doing some stand-up comedy with Chad Prather, and trying to see where I fit in the political, cultural, thought leader sphere, trying to take complicated political topics and make them digestible, shareable, and entertaining for the vast majority of people that want to pay attention but can't stand it for one reason or the other.
Do you still do any of the previous work? Do you do any of the web work?
No, I don't. I don't do any. I don't really do any client work. I certainly don't do any new client work. I'll service some old clients on very, very small things. But the main thing that I do is I buy and acquire websites for myself, and I remodel them and cash flow them on my own. So that business I had always had, but it wasn't enough to be my primary financial position. So when I started making videos, I was like, well, if I could make half of what I made building websites with videos, then eventually I believe that it could get there. Plus, it's more purpose driven. What actually ended up happening was, since I removed all of my client work, which took up all my time, it actually gave me more availability to scout new projects for owned and operated. So it didn't go exactly as I had planned, but it ended up working out in the end on the purpose side and on supplanting the lost income side.
Badass. I mean, it's interesting. Like people like us, I think you and I have talked about monetization stuff when it comes to being an influencer, micro influencer, whatever you want to call me, whatever you want to call you. Yeah. It's a tough world, because pretty much any of the content we put out there, no matter how truthful it is, we can't be monetized on Instagram. We get, as you would say, clapped real fast. Yeah. And then YouTube is a cluster. Do you have any revenue based on your YouTube?
My YouTube makes almost nothing, $25 a month or something like that. But this is the thing is the primary revenue stream for the first, most of it was selling merch. Facebook and Facebook advertising, at pre-roll ads that run in between the Facebook, and then donations and people buying badges and live streams made up basically the totality of it. But what I basically realized is I don't want to be a slave to the revenue as much as I want to be diligent for the impact. So even though the revenue when the election was happening and all of the content was super hot, it was almost like, okay, if I can just keep making this amount of revenue from 20,000, then I should be able to make double that amount of revenue at 40,000 and so forth. But what ended up happening is as the political content gets more dicey, and as the political cycle starts to slow down, and as more and more people enter the space, it's that you can't really rely on that revenue how you would in a normal business. It's in a business, if I output 10 and I get X, if I output 20, I'll get X times 2, or at the very least somewhere close. But it doesn't necessarily always work that way online. And then on top of it, you have this very competitive interchanging mesh of businesses that are competing for your attention, and they want you sometimes and they don't other times. So it's I've just realized that I can't focus on the revenue. I have to focus on the impact, growing the accounts, and continuing to get distribution, and then other opportunities will present themselves along the way. And I also realized that if I became a slave to the revenue, that it would change and alter my direction from being impact and purpose based to being monetary based. And I think that would translate in the content, because I would be searching for things that were shocking and getting me views and hits and likes and follows, versus things that I felt were purposeful and correct for what the world needed to hear. It's if I was to go out to a protest and somebody punches me in the face, or I get some outlandish footage, that could be short-term hit revenue beneficial, but not necessarily long-term towards my purpose. So who knows if the strategy will work? It seems to be working for the time being, and I'm enjoying the process of it all.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that anybody that does what we do is called a grifter. It's like, I don't think
by people that don't understand money or the economy or business or entrepreneurship or how things work or why things are anything. Basically, it's people like hate from the bottom, you know.
All right, so you brought up something. I'm going to skip to it because you talked about shock value, and I know that the last time we kind of had an exchange was with Ian, with you, and you guys were also talking about the Damar Hamlin thing and the conservatives that jumped the gun, and it's now back. Whenever people are watching this show, it's back in current events because Damar Hamlin came out today looking confused as usual when he responded. And Officer Tatum, who I'm a fan of, I think I enjoy most of his almost all of his content.
Yeah.
They came out today and he said it was Commotio Cordis. And I remember I was one of the first people doing a video. I know that there's a risk of looking like an asshole, but I was doing it. I go, there's a lot of eyeballs right now that want to have somebody that has been literally since day one looking at issues with the vaccine, looking at issues with COVID across the board and messaging. And then you see a guy got hit. That night I said, they're going to say it's Commotio Cordis. And it might be Commotio Cordis. However, they have forgotten a lot of different things along the way, like his heart stopped twice, which means it can't be Commotio Cordis. There's never been a situation with Commotio Cordis where it stops twice. And then, of course, you had the weird interview with Michael Strahan where he was like, I don't want to talk about that just now. But now, apparently, he's prepared his answer. And Officer Tatum tonight on his video was literally going, see, I told you it was Commotio Cordis. This is the one time it wasn't the vaccine. I'm still not convinced. And I still am completely content with the fact that some people would say jump the gun and had the discussion early. I never said it was 100% the vaccine, but I did say, if something's wrong and something's off, as this has never happened in pro football. So when it comes to jumping the gun, quote unquote, or sometimes doing something that will get clicks or views or an opinion, what's your opinion on stuff specifically like this case when it comes to Damar Hamlin?
I think that the low hanging fruit and part of the showbiz of it all is being first and having that reaction. And I think that the sad reality of human nature, let's just say, is that the reason that the news is the news and the reason that the websites that are big are the websites that are big is because they are responding to how you actually behave, which is that you want a take, right or wrong, that either validates what you had previously thought and allows it to circulate, or counter, or is the opposite of what everybody might think that you can latch onto, whether you know it's true or not. And it's like the sensationalism and the firstness and the unsureness is what attracts people. It's why, like, if you turn on the news, it's like murder, death, car accident, world is going to end, eggs give you cancer, and then the next day it's something else. But it's like that because they are willing to sell out their audience to monetize it.
Yeah.
And all of the outlets do the same thing. It's like CNN is probably like a good percentage of people that are just full of demons, and a bunch of other people that are just reacting to what the marketplace is and are willing to sell the audience out, not caring what's going to happen so long as they get paper. And I think that a lot of businesses are structured that way. And I think that, what I don't want to do is do the same thing that every other person does, even if the money is better, because that's why the world sucks, is because It was a long string of people that chose the money over the purpose and the vision and whatever. And it's like, you have to make money and there's going to be some element of it, but there's certain lines that we don't want to cross. And even though I'm not, this like granola, completely altruistic about every single thing imaginable, it's like, I don't want to do the same thing that all these other people have done. And I believe that the long-term value of the individual brand is probably more valuable than any network is. So they can sell people out and keep replacing the avatar that sits at the top. But will that really stand the test of time? That I don't know. I certainly don't think it will.
So do you think I jumped the gun on that story?
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, I think that when people comment on a story, or people have an opinion on a story, or they have a presumption about it and they make that clear, then I think that is okay. And the way that you approach something and what your audience expects from you is not necessarily what my audience expects from me. And there's no right way to do it. What I don't like is when people assert certainty to something that they are uncertain of. Like if they're just like, this crime was racially motivated and X happened, when they don't know. And then it's like, was there a gun in the car? I don't know. But no, there wasn't. And then there ends up being one. And then was it racially motivated? Nah, he punched the cop in the eye. It's like, I don't like when people assert like as if they know when they don't know. And they're like, I got a guy on the inside. But I do think that speculation and wondering and conversation is healthy. And it's going to be different on a case by case basis.
I think the Damar Hamlin case was such an interesting one because that caused a lot of odd infighting with the crowd that's always like, look at this young person dying. And I got a ton of, that was one of my highest viewed videos since back in Cash days, but a long time ago. The 2.5 years, it was probably the second biggest video I had, which was very odd to me. And I remember I rewatched it. I'm like, what did I say in it? I said, this has never happened in an athlete of this age, never happened in this sport at this age. The hit wasn't that vicious. We do know that the 95% of the NFL, turns out 80% of the Buffalo Bills are vaccinated. And all I was saying was that, and I go, we've never seen this before. When are we going to start to question something? And Ian and I, totally cool. We had a conversation off the side, but there was a lot of conservatives that went after me with a how dare me. And it was for some odd reason, the Damar Hamlin incident became this very polarizing situation. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that, I don't even remember the specifics of what everybody says, but I did remember a lot of people asserting that it certainly was this.
Right. Which you can't say that.
Right. And like a lot of people were saying that. And, I will admit that it frustrated me seeing so many people say that straight out of the gate. Cause it's like, what if they're wrong? It kind of devalues all of the other ones that are just so blatantly obvious. But I don't know as much about football, people passing out on the field. I don't know what Commotio Cordis even is, and I certainly wasn't going to assert that I knew one way or the other. But what I can say now, looking at it in the rearview mirror, I didn't know that he came out and said that today. I just saw him on TV at the barbershop, and I saw that he's going to play again. But what I would say is, like, in the event that it wasn't that, right? He's not under any legality to tell us the truth. He doesn't have to tell us. Why does he have to tell us? He doesn't have to tell us, number one. Number two, it's possible that it maybe was neither of those two things. Like, he has some history of who knows, but he doesn't want to make himself questionable to the potential teams that could take him in the future. So that could be option number two. And then option number three could be like, right after this happened, he goes to the White House and he's in the Oval Office, and it's like, if the leader of the free world says to you, like, listen, man, we really appreciate that you didn't say anything or whatever, and like, but if you come out and say that this is what it is, you're going to discourage a lot of people from doing this, and a lot of people are going to die. And it's like, I don't want you to have that on your conscience, and we appreciate you coming here, and we want to make you an ambassador to young people, and almost like we're going to scratch your back if you don't say this. And then on the flip side of it all, it's like, is Damar Hamlin a doctor? Does he even know if it was the one or the other? You know what I mean? It's like, what if he thinks it was, but they say, no, it wasn't. And his doctors say, no, it wasn't. And then the NFL was to say, listen, you better not say this because it's going to make us look bad. Like, there's any variety of things, but him saying it, to me, doesn't mean shit.
I thought it was super weird that because Tatum always has a great take. I thought it was super weird that Tatum was like, "See, I told you that's not." He was very clear to him, like, how do all of a sudden we believe him today when a month ago we were making fun of the guy unable to answer a question? This doesn't confirm. Just like you said, there is a million different things. I still am going to speculate some weird stuff happened. If he really wanted to come out and say something, he could actually say, "I'm not vaccinated." But he's never said that. So I still think that there is this, it could, like you said, it could be a myriad of things. Could have been, could be still Commotio Cordis. It's the first time that it slipped out of rhythm twice and combined with maybe a weaker heart not pumping correctly. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the video from Brandon. But here's the thing that I think is important to remember is that, his operation is very large in the sense that he has a team and staff and has been doing it for very long and has a big account. But at the same time, I don't know how big his staff is specifically for the video creation, but it's like, let's say it's 5 people. It's like, you have 5 people. It's like, you're not going to agree necessarily with everybody's take. And you don't know necessarily that could something have slipped through the cracks of all the pieces of content that he outputs. It's like, I don't think I've ever met anybody that says they agree with 100% of what I make. And some of my favorite creators, there's a take where I'm like, I don't know. But isn't that kind of the magic of it all? Is it's like I don't have to agree with everything. I just have to agree that like sometimes you really smash it and like other times not so much. But I generally like being in your silo of information, and it's of great value to me. And I think that we're just not going to necessarily like every take that everybody has, and sometimes we're just wrong.
And that's why I wanted to be clear. Like I think that's a big problem with our group of people is we start to fight each other. That's why I want to be clear. I love Officer Tatum's stuff. This is the one rare occasion I don't necessarily agree with this video. I still would go to him and trust him on 98% of information on what he brings out there. Just like you, Ian's got some definite, like he does some real deep dives into stuff and it's stuff that I don't even know if I could share because I don't know enough about it. And there's a wide range, but I still support all of them. And that'll be the next topic is the fact that there's so much infighting with conservative influencers. They're always trying to find a way to say, oh, gotcha moments when again, we're not always going to agree. Politicians the same. We'll talk about DeSantis, Trump, etc. We're always looking for, they're a rhino. They're, they went to WEF. They went to the World Economic Forum. They're all these different things. So why is it that you think that, and do you even agree with me? Do you think that our kind of influencers in our circle tend to nitpick each other too much?
Well, I would say yes, I guess.
Is it dangerous?
I don't know that dangerous is the right word, but it's almost like the gift and the curse, right? Where it's like we have this cohort, this faction of people that certainly don't belong to another faction, which seem to have like a cohesive message of like demonry, right? Mm-hmm. So they don't fit in there. So they look to the opposite of that. And you have all these like almost like I don't even want to say misfits, but like you have all these people that simply don't fit anywhere else that generally agree in most of the same things, but are a lot more fragmented certainly than the people that are like blindly following the river on the left side. Right. And then you have all these people that are independent thinking, that are self-sufficient, that are in a lot of ways like strong-willed, self-confident, and driven. And when you have that many almost like alpha personalities in the same place, and then they also only are choosing to consume, or most of the stuff they're consuming are from people of whom they agree with, because we're all kind of sharing the right stuff. I think that what happens is like when you're taking a long string of L's, you're looking for a landmine. You're looking for a problem. And because we're so disenfranchised by all the L's, it's almost like natural to get frustrated with the people on your own team instead of keeping your eye on the ball sometimes. Yeah. And that's how great teams lose, is they convince the opposition when they're maybe losing to fight amongst themselves and lose track of winning the game itself and really lose track of the opponent. So I think that what I am actively trying to do is not name people specifically and really try not to give any attention to it and try to stay focused on the ultimate goal, which to me, and I'm going to be repeating this for the course of the next year and a half, is that I only have one objective. And to me, the top tier objective is figure out how to get a person that is not a leftist Democrat in the White House. How does one do that? The way that one does that is by realizing that 60% of the country maybe votes. 40% of them don't vote, won't vote, can't vote, will never care, no matter what. Their house could be on fire, it doesn't matter. 60% of the country votes. Of the 60%, 45% of them will vote for the Democrat no matter what, they could care less. 45% of them will vote for the Republican no matter what, could care less. There's 10% of those people that sit in the middle that could possibly feel disenfranchised by some of the things that are happening with the economy, some of the things that are happening overseas, or some of the things that are happening with the kids, or some of the things that are happening with the alphabet people, the rainbow people. And they might say, you know what? I'm going to choose the economy. I'm going to choose no foreign wars. I'm going to choose fiscal responsibility. I'm going to choose America. I'm going to choose no money over to Ukraine. And that might actually be a little bit better, even though I may want abortion or I may want gun control or I may want these other things, but these priorities might be a little bit more important. And you know what? I kind of like the steward of those ideas in this respective case, because it's maybe not Donald Trump. It's not this person that that everyone says is a fascist dictator, and I don't want the country to be in turmoil. Maybe Ron Desantis or whomever, maybe they actually fit that bill, and maybe those 10% of people come over. My opinion, presently today, April 18th or whatever it is that I don't think Donnie convinces a very significant percentage of those 10% of people to come over. I think that all the people that voted for Donnie will do it again. All the people that voted right will vote again, and that's it. All the ones on the left, the same. But I think of the 10% of those people that sit in the middle, which win every single election, mind you, every single election was within 10%. No matter what, that 10% will decide the future of the country and ultimately the future of how the free world operates. And to me, if you can't convince those 10% to move over to somebody, we lose. And to me, that person right now, presently, with the marketing strategy that he's giving and the messaging that he's giving, I don't think Donnie can get those people. So I think while everybody screams and squeals, they're losing track of the ultimate goal, which is winning. And it's like, while we're taking 4 years of L's right now repeatedly, and our supposed representatives are not doing anything to actually represent us, sometimes the only place that you can actually move the needle is by looking at the people that are in your own camp and being like, you're a rhino, you're not loyal to Donnie. And it's like, dog, are we even thinking about the left right now? Are we even thinking about them? No, all we do is react to the narrative that they set. All we do is react to the stories that they want us to react to. And then we're always chasing the laser pointer like a cat of whatever they serve us to get worked up on. And then as soon as we've figured out a way to break through it, or it no longer has the spice, they all unanimously jump on the next thing and they blow it home. And then we have to go and chase that story as well. And that's just what keeps happening over and over again.
No, it's perfect sense. And it is. We're focused on winning the battles and not the war. And that's
correct.
The problem. And
yep.
We're a year and a half away. You brought up Trump and DeSantis, obviously, and I agree with you on the Trump aspect that he is harder to elect on a national level. He doesn't move the 10%. I think he's already shifted some people over that have just hated Biden, gone like, all right, that was a mistake. But there's also maybe. I don't think it's enough for the 10%.
Right.
Excuse me. But the problem is, well, there's a good side to this and there's a bad side to this. The bad side is the fact that the marketing arm of the leftists, everything, the Democrats, is vast. It's 87% of the media. And no matter what Trump does, do I think Trump could win the 10%? Yeah, if he could actually talk to them. But it's always going to be through the filter and through the funnel of the mainstream media, which makes it an impossibility. Now, the positive side is maps have been redrawn in terms of the Electoral College. So I don't know if I saw Charlie Kirk on Tim Pooley explain the difference. And based on the numbers of people that have left California, gone to places like Texas and Florida, the maps are redrawn to the point where now, I want to make sure I get this right, you don't have to win both Minnesota and Wisconsin. You only have to win one of them. And it's like, and you don't have to win Pennsylvania anymore, something crazy like that. So I'd have to go back and watch that. I should have remembered. But in order to get the 271, you don't need to win that whole belt: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona. You don't have to win all those. You have to win Arizona. I know that. You have to win Georgia, and you have to win one more up north, and I think it's just Wisconsin. So it's kind of a big deal that redrawing does make a difference for the GOP. But I'm with you. So besides DeSantis and Trump, or I'm sorry, yeah, actually, is there anybody besides DeSantis and Trump you like from the GOP right now?
Well, no. But what I will say about that previous comment about the map, dude. This is what I feel like is my spot in this whole equation. Is I'm just like, where do I fit in here? What is my angle? Everybody can react to the news story of the day, and I'm like, what's my thing? To me, I have realized that a non-cohesive message that speaks to people consistently and focuses on the things that truly matter leaves us with this fragmented mishmash of bad branding and bad marketing. The left has great branding and great marketing because they're crowdsourcing it. They got everybody on TikTok. They got people on Instagram. They got all the mainstream news media. They got all the newspapers. They got all the celebrities. The collective effort of all of these people forming the narrative has the message that hits the most rise to the top, and then they all drive the top line message, right? On the right, there is no such funnel because there's not as many people contributing to the pool. So there's not as good of marketing and there's not as good of messaging. Things like that, like you just said, and talking about the map being redrawn, to me is like, that's not people convincing. That's statistical number logic basis, and that's not about how I get to the 10%. That's like, don't worry, Patriots, we redrew the map, whereas like a more cohesive message would be something along the lines of something like this, where it's like, hey, if ballot harvesting is legal, harvest ballots. If on the ground and events matter, use that. If they're getting TikTok people, get TikTok people. If they're giving TikTok influencers, Instagram influencers access to the White House press room or some back channel to leak, and not leak but drop stories to boost their accounts, that's a good strategy. No one's doing that on our side. Nobody's giving us the inside track. Why are you not doing that? They're doing that. So there's another example of them beating the technology, the marketing, the branding game, winning at it. You have all these great creators that do all this great stuff. Yet everybody at the top, it's like, have you ever been reposted by a congressperson? Have you ever been twittered at by a congressperson? Have you ever been any of these people that were pushing and supporting their content? Have they ever done it? Has the GOP ever asked you to do anything? No, of course not. Have they put together some type of youth event, a social media event to get all these people in? No. Have they done anything with the marketing, the branding, or even valued us at all? No. They don't do anything to bring us under the tent, yet they'll go out and be like, we're reframing the map. And it's like, dude, you're completely missing the branding and marketing game. You're completely missing the value of all these creators. They're not lifting anybody up in this silo. And I think that if we don't stay focused on a couple things and a couple messages where we almost can never lose, we lose. And I was just saying this with Anomaly earlier. It's like, what are the things that every American is affected by, that they vote persuasively on usually, and you can really drive home and you can almost like never lose to a leftist on? Matters of economics, jobs, work, money, business, investments, more money in your pocket, lower taxes, and intervention in foreign affairs and foreign wars. It's like, if you say the Republican Party is the party of bringing money and resources back to America, not being the policeman of the world, and focusing on making sure that you and your family has the most money in their pocket and is the most economically sound, so you can protect your life, your family, your property, and your business, and we can all prosper together, and that there will be less crime as a result of that, and there will be less violence as a result of that, and there will be less foreign affairs as a result of that threat of nuclear warfare as a result of that. There will be less people complaining about all this other stuff. There'll be less need for welfare. There'll be less need for a Section 8 housing, because people will prosper. You never lose. But if you go into like drag queen story hour and abortion is slaughter, and you go like directly into the eye of the beast, they're only going to be like, nope, I disagree with this one thing, I'm out. Whereas you could get everybody to agree on the money. You could get everybody to agree on the foreign intervention. And it's like, that's the winning message. Yet instead, we're reacting to all these emotional cues that drive them instead of staying on brand with exactly what we need to say. And to me, that's why we keep losing, because we don't have a cohesive message. The left's message is they're murdering the kids. They're taking women's rights away. And Donald Trump is a fascist Nazi. And that's it. It's like, it's a totalitarian regime. They're going to usher in the Holocaust. They want to make you get raped and have a baby, and they want to murder your kids in school. That's all they talk about. That's all they ever talk about. They have no other point. There's no other platform. Yeah. So it's like, we can't win there. We can only win on facts of logic and reason on the other side of things that affect everybody. Look, abortion doesn't affect every single person. Sorry, it just doesn't. And school shootings also doesn't necessarily affect every single person. And it's like, but money does. And it's not money like I'm this brutal capitalist that doesn't care about children, but it's like everybody is concerned about money. I don't care who you are. And to me, that's the winning message. And it has to be more on brand and more cohesive by outsourcing and crowdsourcing that cohesiveness to creators like us, elevating our status, making us louder, and then having some type of unified brand that everybody stays behind. Instead, because there is no top-down unified brand, we all chase the narrative set by the left, which is why we always lose.
Yeah, it's well said. And a couple things. First off, the abortion topic, I think, is a big loser for the Republican side, because everybody that is pro-life is already voting that way anyways. So you're alienating your 10%, and you're actually even alienating some of your 45% that don't fully agree. Just because it's a conservative point to be pro-life does not mean that everybody on that side is. So I think it's very dangerous. Like you said, I think it's hilarious that the Joe Biden administration was talking about banning TikTok and making this huge bill, and then 3 days later, they've got TikTok influencers when Joe Biden doesn't even know what TikTok is. They had this already lined up. They were never going to ban TikTok. And lastly, to your point about the ballot harvesting, and we have to start playing, and like TikTok, we have to play by the same rules the Democrats do. So I actually will combine what I said with the analysis of the logic of the map to actually focus some of the efforts in the important states. Arizona is one of them that has legal ballot harvesting. So when that's one of those very important states, you have to play by the same rules that they do, period. Otherwise, you are setting yourself up for failure. So yes, go for the 10%, in my opinion, 100. But you can use some of those statistics to know where your resources should be going. And I think both can exist in that same vacuum.
Yeah, well, one thing was like, dude, this is the thing that's so tough that I feel like people on the right, they like have this visceral reaction to this where it's like, you have to follow these rules. These are the conservative values. And if you don't, you're not a real conservative. It's like, dude, look, Elon Musk said this tonight on Tucker, which I found to be very profound and very accurate based on myself getting the pulse of people that I talk to. I have friends from both sides of the aisle, like I think most of us do. What Elon said is he's just like, wouldn't it be nice if there was just a president that was smack in the middle? And it's like, that's the thing that's so hard for people to understand, is that a true statesman, in my opinion, would understand that even though you may think that, let's just use abortion because it's really the toughest one, the vast majority, like, you can think that it is the most terrible, horrible thing imaginable. And you can think that it's irredeemable and that it's so bad. But you can also simultaneously recognize that 50% of the country doesn't feel like that. And whether it's not a matter of right or wrong, it's not almost, I would even say it's not a matter of morality necessarily, even though people like to use that. But like a lot of people just don't see it that way.
Yeah.
So for you to just say you're wrong flat out and all in a way, and you're a murderer now, which is like, you can believe that. But I believe that a statesman would be able to recognize that we have to try to find some middle ground. And we have to understand that if this is the polarizing issue, that I could have a person agree with me on 85% of things, but will vote the other way because of the 15% that really matters, and it might be that. Then it's like, would I rather lose and get zero? Or would I rather find a concession and understand that this is an issue that is very important to them, even though you may disagree with it? But a statesman finds the middle ground, in my opinion. So I think, like, as much as I'm for a lot of the stuff that they say about abortion, and as a younger man, I certainly felt a lot different about it than I do now. I realized a lot of things that I didn't understand then. It doesn't mean that my feeling is the feeling. Because my job as the representative of all people would be to be a little uncomfortable with something because the people have overwhelmingly voiced that that's the case. And I would rather, and like I've said this many times about like picking a house, I would rather have my top 3 priorities and not have 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 and maybe get 9 and 10 of my stuff because I got 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
So it's like, if I can get, like, it's like, would you rather us have this guy that's not living, you know, shipping money to Ukraine, but like we really stood up on abortion? It's like, and as a result didn't win and got nothing.
Right.
Or would you rather say, you know what? Okay. It has some legalities in these certain states, but me saying that, but how about, what if it's 6 weeks? What if it's 8 weeks? What if it's 24 weeks? What if we make some rules about incest, for example, that could be proven by a DNA test? What if we make some concession like that? What if we make a concession where it's like people under the age of 13 or under the age of 14? What if we find some middle ground that we don't like, that we think it's bad and evil and demonry and all this other stuff, but they don't, and we say, okay, I am uncomfortable with this, but you're also uncomfortable with this. But this, to me, is the winning message of how you win. And if I was running for president, I would equally piss off people on the right, equivalent as many people that I would potentially bring in on the left. And to me, that is the true statesman. And if the right was to understand that, I do believe that more of those people would come under the tent, because the vast majority of our stuff is, I think, correct for the nation and really for the world at large. But if we can't figure out how to be 15% uncomfortable, we're going to end up 100% uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, that's also the problem with our political system right now, is the fact that, and it's been like this obviously for I think centuries at this point, is if you're middle, you're never going to win your primary, because the primary engages the Donald Trumps, and I think DeSantis will at one point win as well, depending on when he runs. But I think that is a big problem. There is no middle ground. If you don't activate the ultra left when you're a Democrat, you're in trouble, or just be brain dead like our current president that just they knew could push around. Or on the right, if you don't activate the gung-ho conservatives, you're not getting it. And abortion's such I feel myself going back to this topic on the last couple episodes with Carmen as well, it is a topic, and you're Christian, aren't you? I believe.
I mean, I don't know that I would lead with that, but I mean, I guess
you believe it. Yeah, believe in a higher power. But
I was baptized. I did reconciliation. I was confirmed in the Roman Catholic Church. I was an altar boy for probably like 8 years. I grew up going to church with my parents. I don't regularly go to church now. Sometimes Christmas with them. I believe in certainly a God. I certainly believe in a higher power that I guess you could say is God. I don't necessarily believe in organized religion, though I have reverence for the values that each of them present. But I wouldn't say that I'm I wouldn't put myself in that category. I would just say that I have a relationship with God, and I'm unsure what the rest is.
Perfect. I mean, and I think that that's an incredibly logical way of looking at religion, Christianity, et cetera, all the different things. The interesting thing is our Constitution is based on a lot of freedoms in this country. One of them, depending on how you look at the Constitution, one of them is freedom of religion. And I think that it's very interesting that the conservatives have made the abortion topic such a Christian issue.
Yep.
And that's unfair because technically, if you believe in, so you have to choose the Bible or the Constitution in this case. And when it comes to governance, you have to choose the Constitution. And the Constitution says if you don't believe the same way, you're still welcome under the same umbrella. Roe versus Wade should have been overturned because it should be a state issue. That's constitutional. I get that.
Yes.
But coming from the angle of it should be banned and it's this horrible thing just because that's what your religion believes, it's very difficult for me to tell somebody else because in the United States of America, they don't have to be Christian. And science will say conception. Science will say childbirth. Science has such a wide range of topics that will confuse people. So it becomes the world's biggest gray issue, which is why, like you said, a statesman on this very delicate and dangerous topic does need to play the middle, in my opinion.
Yes, and look, and I have a lot of religious friends, and I have a lot of religious people that follow me, and they don't like to hear this. But look, it's like I don't know that. Look, God can be a very important part of your life, and I do believe that spreading the word and all the things that they do is great. But I think that a lot of people will use it as like a fallback excuse in a political matter, or they will bring it into the conversation where it otherwise doesn't necessarily need to be. And I think that it turns off a person that may be trying to just look at the facts specifically because they don't necessarily agree with that exact interpretation of the religion. And like, look, and like some people are Bible loyalists and read the Bible. I mean, it's like the Bible has been translated hundreds of times in lots of different languages. I'm not saying that it's inaccurate, but it's like we don't. One of the most beautiful things about life is that it's up for interpretation. And I just feel like with something such as this, it's like I feel like it's doing less good in the policy and political realm debate, but it's doing more good in the personal character and culture part of it. It's like I like that people are so religious. I think that that's great, but I don't know that it has to be intertwined with your political beliefs necessarily as a means of justifying whatever is your position, because it's like it almost like alienates people from it, which I think might be counteractive to like I was saying, appeasing the majority of people and getting some of what you want, but not all of what you want. And I think that like throwing that in the ring, it's like flip it the other way. So it's like, let's say that like every single person on the left was Muslim or was Buddhist or was some other religion and they kept doing it. We would be the first ones to be like, yo, that's not, and like if they were to do that to us, we'd be like, we're logic, facts, and reason, like not everybody believes that statistically. And then I saw this thing today, which I thought was like it's like you hate to see it, but it's right. I saw this dude and he's like, oh, and it was a news article and it was like pastor arrested for doing like diddling kids. And he's like, no drag queens there. And then it was another one of a pastor getting arrested for doing stuff with kids. Not a drag queen there. And then he literally went through 50 different screenshots of pastors doing messed up things. And he was like, not a drag queen there, not a trans there, not a homosexual there, and he kept ripping through it. And I'm just like, yeah, it's like, this is an culturally accurate portrayal that people are putting the blinders up to. It's like, the Catholic Church, the church has been rife with scandals for many years. So for us to just be like drag queen story, it's like, listen, I don't like that drag queens are bringing 5-year-olds to drag queen story hour. I don't like that. But do I believe that it's the government's job or our job as people that want to be statesmen to say like, this is the target? I've spent more time watching videos and reactions to Drag Queen Story Hour than any of the things that affect every single person. There's shitty parents out there, and there's a lot of shitty parents out there that are doing a lot worse than Drag Queen Story Hour. And even though I don't like it, and even though them taking them to a drag show in Austin, Texas, or wherever they are in some bar, I think is bad for them. But what are they watching on TV? That could be bad for them. What about the parents that are drinking at home? That could be bad for them. What about the parents that are taking them to church and all, and those bad things are happening? That could be bad for them. There's a million things that could be bad for them. But it's like, I thought we wanted freedom. I don't know that that should be a high priority item, even though I don't like it. Yet, if you were to summarize the conservative focus for the last like 90 days, it's like drag queen related things and like trans related things. And it's just like, I don't know that this is everything. We're missing all this other stuff. We're tripping over dollars to pick up pennies. And as a result, we're alienating so many people. We're like, no gay person or no trans person and no person that believes it, that has a friend that's a trans person is ever going to vote for you ever now. It's like you just alienated everyone, even if they agreed with you on 100% of stuff other than that. So that's kind of my point is like, do we really need to prioritize that? Even though I agree that it's bad, I don't think it's good. Is that really where we got to make every video and do every single thing about that?
I agree. I agree mostly. There are some parts where it's like when it's the drag queen story hour. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
The thing that I start trying to figure out is where's the root of all the damage we're doing to kids. Like, did you saw the SNL clip that was like 3 minutes long of Big Molly that was like,
yes. And actually, let me actually clarify.
Yeah.
Drag Queen Story Hour, them reading stories at school, I think that is very bad. I guess what I meant was like a person bringing them to like a drag brunch at a place. I think that's a little bit different because it's not in a school, but I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Again,
that's a parent, still a parent's choice. I think,
right. Sadly.
I believe in some legislation on that. I know that, we might disagree on that one, but
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too, but it's like, but we're spending so much time
on it. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I wonder if that's what's leading kids though into being 12 years old and fighting their parents and saying, I need to go get gender reaffirming care and change their genders, which is so ridiculously chemically dangerous, everything in the body. So that's where I start to go. It may not be affecting that 5-year-old today, but is it affecting that 7, 8-year-old, 10-year-old coming up? And that's why I'm like, we need to nip this in the bud now, which is why I do believe in legislation for it.
That may be true. However, I remember when I was a kid hearing people say, if you listen to Eminem, you're gonna kill your wife. If you play shoot 'em up video games, you're gonna become a murderer. And like, I played nothing but shoot 'em up video games. And I have the utmost reverence for firearms. I've never been in a fist fight in my entire life. And it's like, none of those things were true. And when I was young, I listened to all the worst music and all the worst rap and all the bad stuff and watched movies. And I mean, my parents were good, but it didn't necessarily have that effect. And I'm not saying that the drag stuff is going to do the same thing, but it's like, shouldn't we focus more on the hospitals performing the surgeries? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like we're missing the thing that really matters.
Most important part.
Yeah. Whereas like it's like, I don't know. It's so tough. And this is why I think I have a spot in this conversation, because one of the things that I feel is my strength is taking very, very complicated, nuanced topics and making an analogy that can help somebody sort of see it from my angle. And I think that communication is the future of all of this stuff. And I feel like my communication prowess to some degree, not that I'm the best, is what I can contribute to this. You know, that's what I've been trying to do, is like take these things where it's like, yes, but how do I get you to see that it's like, why aren't we prosecuting hospitals that are cutting off breast tissue? Why aren't you making legislation that says you can't do that on a 14-year-old kid? It's like, why aren't we strengthening those laws? It's like, in all the time that's spent on the drag stuff, it's like, wouldn't that be more effective? What about this drug that they're giving to kids? This whatever Matt Walsh talks about it. It's like, why aren't there
puberty blockers
why aren't we investing in research on that drug to prove that it actually is bad? Why don't they say, like, this is bad and now you can't prescribe it to a 12-year-old or you'll get prosecuted for that?
It's weird because there is evidence that's out there. That's the problem, and it still doesn't matter. Meanwhile, we're having this conversation, and I agree to everything you just said. Yet Washington State has a bill being passed where they are now saying if you don't go along with your child's delusion at the age of 12, you can lose that child.
Right. And that is massively insane.
Yeah.
But there will be proportionately more stories about drag shows in cities than there will be that. Yeah. The thing that really matters, the thing that's the most important thing of all the things, is being shelved for the hot sales, the hot attention grab of the lowest tier.
Yeah.
And while we're missing the most important thing and messing around in the bottom, they're just advancing. Back in the very beginning, I used to use this analogy where I was just like, what good is it if you're protecting the front of your house and you got guns and walls and fences and the back door is open? It's like you're over here looking over here and they're taking everything out of the back door. All it takes is one door. Yep. If one door is open, you could lose everything. But instead, you're focused on all these other things and missing what's happening in the back. And I just think that that's my view of it, where like we're focusing on a lot of stuff that doesn't matter, that I agree is good to point out, like a Dylan Mulvaney. It's like, I'm with it. I get it. I'm for it. I'm like, rip it up, like F Bud Light, whatever. But it's like, what about, will we get the same attention for the thing in Washington? Will as many people talk about the thing in Washington? Yeah. The thing that's far more culturally significant? Because if it happens in Washington, that means it could happen. That means it could happen in Oregon.
Yeah.
That means it could happen in California. That means it could happen in Connecticut. That means it could happen in Illinois. That means it could happen in all these other places. And then what are you going to do? Oh, we stopped the drag fucking show, but we missed it. I don't know.
Stop the drag show in Tennessee, but you know, parents are losing their kids in Chicago. I'm not a big fan of always saying like, this is a distraction. And I don't think you just said that. It's literally a level of importance. Like we can, in the words of the great former Vice President Joe Biden, we can eat, chew gum at the same time and walk or whatever he says.
We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
There it is. But we can pay attention to some of the crazy shit, but we also need to focus on the more important stuff. I agree.
As a collective, and because I believe that policymakers are actually a lot more reactive to public discourse than we think. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the thing, is that us, the creators, small, medium, and large, need to be more focused on setting the narrative and holding our representatives to account on that. We're looking for them to give it back down to us, and they are just failing. So they'll react to whatever we're talking about to satisfy us, to secure their position. And if I was a Republican lawmaker right now and I was looking at what mattered, I would be like, trans and drag queens. It's like, but the thing in Washington, there's not that many videos about that. There's a couple good ones, but it's a complicated topic. It's not as easy. It's not as easy of a soundbite.
Yeah.
You gotta explain it. But instead of them explaining it, they're reacting to what we're reacting to. Right. So I think it's a lot of like, it's like, I hate to say it because I don't want to like dunk on anybody, because it's like, I don't want to be disparaging my own team, but it's like, it's like lazy kind of.
Yeah.
And again, I want attention there, but I just wish that all of us collectively could be more focused on the top priority items. And I like Ben Shapiro. I think Ben Shapiro is very smart, does a lot of good things. I don't want to criticize somebody that does so many things, but I'm listening to his podcast 30 minutes ago, and he's talking about this case with the black teenager that got shot by the white guy in whatever it was,
Ralph Yar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's another girl that got shot in a driveway in, I think it was upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that other case is on the front page of the New York Times. That other case is being ripped through the media, CNN and all the rest. And they are setting the narrative. And then Ben Shapiro, who, again, I'm not criticizing him. I'm just making an assessment. That's his lead story. And he's talking about how this story, here's the story, which he tells the story. And then he's like, but what about this other story where no one's giving any attention to this story? It's like, you could have just given attention to that story. You didn't have to react as much and dedicate the show to the other thing. That's the thing they want you to focus on. Instead, why don't you make the whole show about all of the other things that happened that they're not paying attention to, so all of us could rally around that? Then we set the narrative instead of being responsive to the narrative that they set. That is what keeps happening over and over again. It's like there was a white chick in Chicago that got her ass kicked by like 30 dudes that got like 30 black kids all at once, and it's on video. And Riley Gaines got attacked by a bunch of people in San Francisco. Yeah. And it's like the fact that we're not making that the headline news and not letting up, but we turn as soon as the New York Times posts this Ralph guy. It's like, we already just lost.
We're playing defense.
And Ben Shapiro even said on the show, he's like, Joe Biden doesn't care who that girl is that got her ass kicked in that video. He doesn't know her name. Joe Biden invited the kid, Ralph, to the White House. Yep. He invited him to the White House. So it's like, but here's Ben Shapiro reporting on it. And again, I'm not criticizing him, but it's like, but he doesn't know her name. Him and his firepower could have been the guy that figured it out who it was. Yeah. They could have been and it could have been like, here's Jennifer, whatever. She did this. And it's like, instead, the lead story is the fucking kid sitting in his school senior picture, sitting in the grass, looking great. Like, it's almost like the Trayvon Martin story, where it's like, it was a picture of Trayvon Martin, like in his pajama jams when he was 13, yet the kid was like 6 feet tall. And it's like, this dude didn't look like he looked. This dude didn't say the things that he said were not as he was depicted. Yet here we are serving up their pre-approved photo and their pre-approved storyline before the facts come out. Let me remind you. Yet here's another story that's clearly worse, that they would make front page headlines, that we are not making front page headlines because we're responding to their narrative instead of setting the narrative, or at the very least trying to set the narrative. Yeah, but we're not doing that.
The girl's name is Kaylin Gillis, and she was killed for driving into the wrong driveway. And I agree with you. The thing is, it's your level of influence isn't high enough. Ben Shapiro's might be.
Yes.
So you have to break the paradigm of this news cycle, but we have had to play reactive and reaction to all of the garbage that comes out from that 87%. And I think it's a tough paradigm to break. And I don't know who will break it. I don't know if it will ever get broken, to be honest.
Well, that certainly, I believe, is the wrong attitude. Dude, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and Candace Owens are like a rock star distribution.
Absolutely. Stephen
Ben
Crowder.
Ben Shapiro has one of the top 50 podcasts in the world, pretty sure. Yeah. Or at the very least the top 100, and in certainly the top 50 in whatever his category is, news maybe. He's like in the top 50. So it's like, you have a top 50 podcast in the world. You know who else is in there? Matt Walsh.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, there's two. And what about Candace? Candace is a rock star. She's speaking on all these stages. It's like, they actually could move the needle, because if that was the lead story there, we could clip up that story. We could know that girl's name. We could all be like, this girl. But instead, we all know Ralph's name.
Yeah.
But we don't know her name. And I'm not even trying to criticize Ben Shapiro. I'm just saying, it's like, to me, because if we employ the same belief system that you just said, like, it can never change, well, then it's definitely not going to change.
Well, it's not that I don't think it can change. It's the fact that I don't think that group is willing to suffer the consequences of trying something new.
Maybe.
That's my thought. And that's the issue with it. I do think it can change. I think it's an uphill battle when you're talking about, yes, you have the distribution, but you're still 13% of the media. Well, it's actually less than that because it's independent. I think I refer to it as something that one of my favorite things you ever said, which is the fact that there needs to be some kind of laughter or comedy. There needs to be something in there, which is why I'm a big Steven Crowder fan. And I think that you said comedy is the Trojan horse of truth, or no, yeah, comedy is the Trojan horse of truth. And I think that that is one of the only ways that we will get to that level of conversation is to have people that are intelligent, funny, and willing to take chances. I think Ben Shapiro is incredibly intelligent. I don't find him funny, so I think that'd be a difficult stretch. Matt Walsh has a dry humor. He might have the ability. Steven Crowder is somebody that I think could move the needle to try to do something different like that. But I do think it's a difficult uphill battle, also because the American viewer needs something every 5-10 seconds. So,
well, yeah, yes, but like, here's the other thing. The story that's on the front of the New York Times is obviously more in the news and more people are going to watch, right? Because they've already seen it. Yeah. So is that a monetary decision, or is it that's just what they believe is the most, like, what's the North Star? And I'm not trying to analyze what Ben Shapiro's North Star is, but I'm just saying it's like, if one was to want to affect the culture in a way, they got to try to do it. And I'm not saying that what they're doing is bad, because I do think that what he says is correct.
Yeah.
But it's like, but I don't think that your average person in the 10%, like I've been talking about, I don't think that person is going to listen to him explain for 20 minutes why here's these other people and we're not paying attention to this. And he went through all the statistics and stuff, and I'm like, this is spot on. But if you don't give me a fucking chart to post from Daily Wire that says, here's the chart, repost this, then it's like, I got nothing. What am I going to do? Clip up a 20-minute video? I can't do that. So it's like, but the left does that. I saw on Benjamin Crump is the attorney that represents the kid, because the shot rings out in Black America and Benjamin Crump comes running with his Porsche. And so he represents them. He reposted today a cartoon that showed this kid is a great student. It was a cartoon of him. And then he went to go and pick up his brothers, and he knocked on the door. It was a fucking cartoon reel of this situation. And it made it look like this guy just like blew his head up. And it's like, we don't know the story yet. But that cartoon is a shareable nugget that they're like, here you go. But that's why they are killing the marketing game. That's why they're so effective, because they all rally around making it easy, emotionally manipulatable, digestible, shareable, and they crush it. And we're over here with this long diatribe of facts and logic and reason, and 5% of it actually makes it to the people at the bottom. Whereas like some girl that I know that I've been friends with for many years, she reposted the cartoon. Does she even read the story? Does she even know? Did she even do anything? She looked at the cartoon. She was like, that's messed up. In America, I can't believe it. And she shares the cartoon. Cartoon makes it 50 times around the world before people even get a chance to watch the 20 minutes of the facts and the figures on Ben Shapiro's show. And to me, that's what I'm saying. It's like, we're losing the marketing and branding game, because we're not realizing that in order to achieve the goals that we want, we have to have a more concise strategy and better marketing.
Facts. You know what sucks is I don't think we're ever going to know. We're not going to know the details on the story. It is always till the end of the time. It's going to be a he said, because this is a lower income area. There's no Ring doorbell. He says that the guy jiggled the handle and started yanking at it. The kid who ran away and then ended up almost succumbing to his injuries, but he's alive and it seems like he's well. He says that he rang the doorbell. There is never going to be proper evidence. One person heard him say, don't come around here or something. There is never going to be proper evidence for me.
Well, did they even give that much detail yet?
Yeah, so they've given that there is an alleged eyewitness that said they heard the old white man say, "Don't come around here anymore," and then there is
somebody said that today.
That is an alleged statement.
You know who else? You know who else had alleged statements that ended up being bullshit? And look, I don't know anything about this case yet. I'm not going to pretend like I do.
Yeah.
But there's a video, there's a movie, a documentary called The Trayvon Hoax, which is about the true facts and details of the Trayvon Martin story, which I never even knew. I watched this documentary and I was like, oh my God. It was the most eye-opening thing ever. And you know who was Trayvon Martin's attorney? Benjamin Crump. And you know who's the attorney for this guy? Benjamin Crump. Benjamin Crump, the attorney for Trayvon Martin, put a woman on the stand and said that it was Trayvon Martin's girlfriend, and it wasn't. They lied. They literally took another girl and said this was his girlfriend, and they convinced this girl to lie on the stand about this story. And then there was the Michael
Brown, St. Louis, Ferguson.
Hands up, don't shoot. An eyewitness said that he said hands up, don't shoot. No evidence of that happening. Didn't happen. Literally, objectively, did not occur. Convinced them to lie because they thought they were doing a solid for the culture. Fingerprints on the officer's gun. Dude was huge. It's like, but that message was around the planet. It's on LeBron's.
It still is.
Exactly.
Still is.
They still because it doesn't matter because they know how to brand because they're good at branding. So I don't believe any of that shit until I see it officially, and I don't believe any of this eyewitness garbage, and I definitely don't believe a single word that comes out of the most racist, lying, race-baiting grifter in America, which is Benjamin Crump.
Fact. Yeah, here's the thing. Even if that eyewitness account is correct of hearing somebody say, don't come around here anymore. Again, if there is somebody jiggling my handle and trying to get in my house, I shoot at them, not knowing if I killed, whatever, I would probably yell, don't come around here anymore. I don't think that's a racist statement.
Right. No, it's not. And anymore insinuates that there's someone that has been there previously. If a person tried to break into his house the night before and then a person's at his door the next day and he looks the same or drives the same car, or who knows? We don't know yet, but it's like they've already got it. They're like, this guy's a racist. I watched this video today where this celebrity woman said, I can tell a racist just by looking at his face, and that guy's a racist. And this has like thousands of shares, and it's like these people can say whatever they want. So it's just like, to me, the whole mishmash of it, it's almost like we can't give this any gas until the facts come out. I don't care if it's on the front page of the New York Times. What about what's not on the front page of the New York Times? What about something else that we could rally around? And I understand that it's unconventional, but it's like if we don't start being more tone setting and more narrative setting and less reactionary, we're screwed. Because all of us that would maybe have never even known about that case until the real truth came out, we wouldn't have known. But now we got to speculate. And where do we go to speculate? We're going to go listen to Ben Crump, and Ben Crump's stock goes up. And you got to go to CNN and see their perspective, and their stock goes up. And it's like, it's just this big cycle where at the end of the day, we're just feeding into that narrative where it's like, instead of his show today being about some other thing, and I guarantee you there's 100 other things that are of value, that's what it's about. And again, I'm not trying to criticize Ben Shapiro. He's one of many creators. I think he did a good job. But I think that is indicative of why we're always following the narrative set. And Anomaly has said this and does a great job explaining it, where he's just like, if we don't set the narrative like they do, we lose. All we do is react. And I'm regurgitating that straight from him.
Yeah. I want to get into the Anomaly thing before we wrap up. We'll try to finish up the next 20 minutes, hopefully. You bring up a perfect point. We have to change the paradigm of news. And I remember one of the last times that we had you on Truth Will Set You Free, almost a year and a half ago, one of the things you said, because we were having a good time, we were laughing, we were messing around, and you're an incredibly funny guy. I do think your tone has changed in the last year, rightfully so. You're still funny, but there is definitely a more serious tone. Yeah. And I know a lot of the people that follow you that I know like the new tone better.
That's good.
Yeah, they do. They like because you are informing, you're still funny. But I remember you said this is no longer a joke.
Yeah.
And it hit, and I still remember that part of the conversation. It's not a joke anymore because we are a couple of years away from a continued administration that could lead us to losing the dollar. Our First Amendment rights are imperiled daily. I I think we are at a very dangerous tipping point. So from the day that you started to now, and then we'll get into your partnership or co-branding with Anomaly. What has changed? What has changed since August of 2020 when you started doing this to where it is more serious now?
Well, the first thing was that in 2020, with the exception of being locked down in a biomedical garbage factory of a country, under Republican watch, let me remind everybody, we were on a long string of wins. It's like there was all these good things happening. It's like the economy was good. The stock market was good. Like people were making money. People were spending money. Like we were getting out of foreign wars, it seemed. There were no new wars. Every single day they were just complaining about Trump's character, but really not so much about his specific issues. And it was like everything was hilarious because I was like, how is Joe Biden? It was like, how is he going to win? It's impossible. Like, this is impossible that this guy could win. And it was like, it was so fun, such a fun time because it's like we were just dunking on them daily, which is what they're doing to us now.
Yeah.
So it was so fun. And then after the election, it was like full of optimism, like, oh, well, maybe he's going to turn it around. There's going to be some big reveal at the end. And like, this will all have been to the plan. And then that didn't happen. And then it's like, all right, then it was January 6th. And then after that, it's the election, or it's the inauguration day. And now he's in. And it's like, all right, well, maybe it won't be as bad as we thought. I don't know. Like, could it get that bad? Right? Maybe it will work. The stock market went up at first when he was first in there. So it's like, all right, like he's an idiot. Like, who cares? But like there wasn't as many objective measurements because he hadn't had enough time to effectuate change where we would say, where you couldn't be like, well, that was Donnie and he's got it now. It's like he's only been there a month. But over the course of the preceding or following year of time, it was like, okay, now this is coming true. Up, now the stock market turned. Up, now the inflation is up. Up, now the eggs. Up, now Ukraine. Up, now. So it's like this long series of all these consecutive L's, where it's almost like I have a tough time finding the humor in it, and I've started to realize that it's like I can't. I would rather follow my original North Star, which is how do I achieve the objective, more so than I would rather make funny videos. And it's like when I first started, started making videos, I was always like, being a comedian is like not enough. Like it matters, but it doesn't matter. It's almost like if I was the greatest guitarist in the world, and I'm not trying to disparage them, music is important, but for whatever reason I was like, policy and the way that the people work and move just seemed to me like a higher and better use of my time than me having the biggest fan base. And no criticize of them, it's just my personality type. So I was like, okay, I could make funny videos and I could find the stupid thing of the day, but then I'm missing the real value that I could bring to all of the very, very serious and very tough topics that would ultimately move the needle forward. If I just sit here and shit talk these people every day, it's really not going to change anything. And it's like, I also found myself realizing that it's like, I always justified making fun of people that did fucked up stuff, where I was like, this person's doing fucked up shit. I can say like mean things about them. But later I kind of realized that like, me attacking the person almost loses the message to people that are like, you're just hating and you're being mean, right? So I was like, how do I balance the comedy with not being mean, but pointing out the correct thing that needs to happen in order to move in the right direction? And I haven't figured out how to successfully do that and grow at the same clip that I was before. But I believe that what I'm talking about is more substantive, purposeful, and valuable. So that's the dance. And it's like, you learn every day, right? So I'm glad to hear that you're saying people are liking that. I think that's very reassuring and nice.
And you still do doses of you still have a decent dose of comedy, so it works. Now you're talking about growth, like from a shadow ban perspective. I know the left believes as though our saying shadow ban is just us being a snowflake, but it's real. You and I talked recently, like there's certain topics that all of a sudden afterwards, we don't get any knocks on our account. There's nothing visible because there is some times where we'll see like you screwed up, you said the wrong thing. But then there's just times where it's like, no matter what time of day we post, you get a fraction of the views. How is that? I mean, your growth has still been really good, but what have you noticed are some of the off topics that get you in trouble?
Well, this is this is a decision that I almost made subconsciously and ended up being like the right decision, I think, which is like, if I don't talk about what I want to talk about and I become a slave to the numbers or the revenues or whatever, I'm going against all the things that I disliked about it in the first place. And it's like, if I talk about certain things, I know they'll get more gas. But if I want to talk about something and I want to be on the record about it, I'm just not worried that it doesn't get the engagement. I've had videos there in the last 2 years. I could name the number of videos that I've put out that have less than 1,000 likes on them. I could probably count them on two to three hands, maybe. Maybe I had 20 or 30, maybe in 2 years, putting out 4 pieces. Now it's like recently I say something that's maybe not what people want to hear about Donnie. 400 likes. But on the other hand, again, I don't believe that the numbers, the engagement, the likes and whatnot are always indicative of the full picture. Because there's times where I'll go to a guy that has 900,000. Like I was actually looking at Brandon Tatum's post wall yesterday, and he had a video that has 3,000 likes. And it's like he has 900,000 followers. I have 153,000, and I have videos with 3,000 likes. I have videos with more than 3,000 likes, and so does he. So it's like, if we can separate ourselves from the numbers on a platform and what is happening right now, and instead focus on creating a consistent flow of reliably great content over time that follows the path that you want it to follow, then I think that the road rises to meet you. If I was doing things for clicks and numbers, I might have a meteoric rise, but what am I going to do when that rise isn't there? I'm going to have to find the next shocking thing. I'm going to have to do the next insane thing to maintain that growth, because what you really don't want to see is loss.
Yeah.
And if I can cheaply gain, I can equally as quickly lose. So with me, it's like, I'd rather have this consistent path where people are like, this dude has like really been trying and really been putting the effort in and really not wavering from the North Star. And I think that if I was to look at the numbers and look at the revenues and follow only those things, it would alter my path and sour what I originally and continue to intend to do.
Smart. I like that. Do you have haters? I mean, I've got a couple trolls that are always in my stuff. Do you have a couple of haters that just keep going, or do you block them?
I've blocked a lot of people, but I don't even really care about the haters really so much. To me, it's not really much of a concern. If people are like outright lying and like tagging me and saying that I'm something that I'm not, I'll block them and cut them off from the flow of it. I could care less. I used to be less trigger happy with the block, but now I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But what to me is discouraging and unfortunate is that there will be people that will agree with me and will like quietly unfollow me because they don't like my take on one thing.
Yeah.
And it's like that's too bad. And I've seen that happen a few times, and I'm like that's really unfortunate. And it's like I don't want to follow you and listen to you potentially disparage me later. I'd rather just cut it and move and keep moving how I'm going to move. And I just think that that's kind of a sad thing. It's like people hating is one thing, but it's like, if we agree on 93% of things, but you don't like my take right now, it's like, we can still get along. We can still follow each other. We can still whatever. You don't need to be talking on me. But what I've been trying to maintain, and I certainly hope I keep it this way, is like, if somebody's going to come at me, especially somebody that I agree with most of the time, I'm just going to try to not give it gas. I don't want to react. I don't want to engage in that. I don't want to do the back and forth. I don't want to be like, this person said this, but I don't want to do that. It's like that again. It's like, what's the point? Why are we doing this? What's the North Star? If it's not advancing towards the North Star, it's not worth the time. So I'm hoping that I can continue to do that. And up until this point, I haven't had anybody do that. And I haven't had anybody say anything outright and make a video like Bobby's straight away that I respected beforehand.
Yeah.
You know, there's been other people that have done that, but nobody that I like respected before. So I'm sure that day will come, but I certainly hope that it doesn't. I think that we have bigger fish to fry, and you certainly should be concerned if you see me start doing that, because I will not do that.
Yeah, mine are more. When I say that, mine are more trolls. They're not the haters. And the trolls, like I can't block. I very rarely do I block people because I want to engage. I want to see what they're thinking, and I don't understand the just vitriol and the hate. So I continue to do it, but there needs to be a point probably where I just cut that out. But I almost enjoy it. It's almost masochistic. I don't know.
Well, to me the big thing was the time. I was like, the time. Like I made a comment on Donnie's NFT thing today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Where I was like, yo, this is a miss. Like, I don't care. I don't give a shit. If you want to comment me and chirp me in the comment, this is a miss. Fuck, like, this is my opinion. I don't care. You don't have to agree with me. I'm just saying from a marketing perspective, this doesn't bring the 10%. Big fucking miss. Here's why I think it's a miss. Walk away. There's probably hundreds of comments on there now. And I saw a bunch of them coming through, and I'm like, I'm not going to read them. I don't care. I read a couple of them earlier, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. Because this is a waste of my time that I could be using driving towards the thing that I need to drive towards. And if I get trapped in there, I'm going to lose a lot of time. And look, it's a minute here and it's a minute there. It's 5 minutes a day. Well, 5 minutes a day is 35 minutes a week. 35 minutes a week is over an hour a month. It's 2 hours a month. And just like that, you just lost 2 hours. You know how many videos I could have made in 2 hours? Maybe 5. What would those 5 videos have done? A lot. So it's like, that's what I have understood in my entire career being an entrepreneur. The whole game is how to prioritize the top tier items. That's all it is. Yeah, it's like your time is all you got. Prioritize the top tier items. And like, to me, we all get stuck in that. It's like human nature. But to me, I'm like, I need to be moving upwards. And if this is not serving me, then what good is it? I'm gonna lob my opinion in there and leave it, and you guys can all cook on it, and that's fine. If you want to make a video about it, great. But then more attention will surface to the reason why I dissented. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I just don't think it's right. So here's my opinion, and I'm out. And I was planning on making a video about it today, but I've been on podcasts all day long, so I haven't had a chance to make it. But I guarantee you that video will get nowhere near the likes that a normal video will get. It'll get like 400 likes. Even if it's good, even if it's right, even if a lot of people like it. Because a lot of other people won't like it because they don't want to see other people see them like it, because then they'll be like, oh, what do you like? Oh, you were the simp now or whatever. Like, people are afraid. People are afraid, bro, because there's a lot of vitriol and a lot of just insanity on both sides of it, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. And I think a lot of people out there are actually resonating a lot more with forget DeSantis, forget the DeSantis avatar, forget him and he's Paul Ryan's puppet or whatever. I'm just saying, from a marketing standpoint, I think a lot of people are like, DeSantis might be able to get those 10% over. And I think that they just don't want to admit it because they don't want to be disloyal to Donnie. They don't want to turn on somebody that they invested all their chips. And I think that a lot of people are quietly like,
I was at a Trump rally in Waco, and there was a lot of people that were talking like that, like, I don't mind DeSantis. And DeSantis is MAGA. DeSantis is part of this new version of the Republican Party. You could say the puppet, but it's a lot of marketing done by Trump against him that makes it feel this way. And then you've even got the Super PAC coming out with the first anti-Trump commercial from DeSantis Super PAC, but never once does DeSantis say, I approve this message. And people think that it's DeSantis doing it. It's a weird game that's being played. All right, you talked about your podcast that you were on earlier today. You've made and one of my also favorite influencers for a long time, Anomaly. So you guys have forged a partnership. How did that start, and what is the plans with that?
So I had always, he's one of those people that I held in the highest tier of regard of being consistently spot on. And I also saw that he had a tremendous work ethic, because he's putting out so much content. And I'm like, this guy is well informed about history. He's well read. He's articulate. He's funny, and all of it. And I agree with the vast majority of his takes. And I looked up to him before I had a chance to talk to him. And I had always wanted to figure out a way to work with him, but I didn't know what I could provide. And I built websites for 15 years, so I'm always purchasing websites and acquiring them. But I never had a website that I could use this channel to push my social channels. So I was in this process of trying to figure out how I could either acquire another site and then drive it and look for people to join in, or build one from scratch. But I wasn't. The plan hadn't formulated yet. Him and I had met in person several times and talked before on live streams as well as in real life, and at some events. And I saw on his Instagram story that he was on the beach, and I'm like, that looks like my beach. And then there's a building behind him that I recognize as being a building that's 10 minutes from me. And I was like, yo, you're in town. We should get up. And he's like, yep, I'll be in town for a couple of days. So we just went and linked up and kind of spent the day chilling and talking and whatnot, and just kind of talking shop. And the idea just kind of formulated on what we were both kind of seeking and moving towards. And we were talking about Daily Wire and about Crowder, and about how all of these respective conservative outfits are creating themselves and what they're doing to do it. And I was like, dude, I can build the Daily Wire from a website standpoint. I can build any of the websites that any of these guys have. I can build a Gateway Pundit. I could build an Epic Times. I can do that from a technical side of things. I've managed websites that get 1 million hits in a day. So it's with your content and my content and your big audience and driver and my audience, and the fact that our stuff collaborates so much with my technical know-how and your distribution, we could have the seed of something that could be far bigger that we could control. And we wouldn't need to say, we're under this umbrella, or we have a contract with this company. And it was we actually could do it. And we both have this equivalent amount of skill set, and we both have different strengths, and we both have an audience, and we both are very driven and have a great work ethic. And we actually happen to mesh quite well as we start working together. So it's just been a really fun thing, and it's been really awesome. And we're really excited to really ramp it up and build it up. And we're doing it the same way we do with our channels, which is you stick to the main goal, and you slowly advance towards longevity.
What's the website called again?
StreamRare.com.
StreamRare.com. Let's check it out while we're on here.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, it does have that feel to it.
Yeah, and it's we want to do exactly what I was talking about before. We want to highlight the news stories that aren't getting the attention. We want to drive the narrative. We want to focus on the things that instead of sharing a New York Post article or sharing an article from X, Y, or Z location, we could share an article that we wrote, that we compiled, that we put together, and we want to draw attention to. And the site is clean and slick. It screenshots well on a phone. It's easy to share. It loads quickly. And we're going to have a lot of really cool stuff on there as we continue to grow.
This is perfect. One of the stories, this is just news. Elon Musk changes his name on Twitter to Harry Balls. That's it. That's the story. That's good. That's great. I love it. Oh, Elon is fantastic. Did you freeze on me? You there? Did you hear me saying Harry Balls?
I don't believe I recall Harry Balls. Oh, you said one of the stories is
one
of the Harry Balls Elon Musk story, yeah.
Well, I think the funny thing is, I think I got that part in, so we're good. We'll leave the Harry Balls. So we'll start right here. All right, so we had a minor infraction. We had a little freeze. Apparently, when you talk about Elon Musk and Harry Balls, it causes the thing to freeze. So we're coming back. We got Bobby. We're gonna wrap the episode with a little hot seat, and then we'll have final words. First off, I want to go back. It's very cool what you're doing with Anomaly. Again, one of, you take JP Sears, Anomaly, Steven Crowder, Chad Prather is another one. Some of my favorite influencers. And the fact I know you've gotten to work with a big bulk of them, but Anomaly is one of the smartest, most well-researched people, and I appreciate that, Adam. So,
Yeah.
Kudos. I watched about an hour of your guys' show today, and it was interesting because not a lot of our ilk necessarily agrees with the Desantis argument that both you and I have a very similar thing. They're not willing to say it out loud because Donnie Ballgame is always popular. Everybody loves hearing about Donnie Ballgame's going to do this and that and the other thing.
Yeah, well, like I said on the show, it's like if you spent the last 4 years hitching your wagon to him, and you believe that he was a good steward for the vast majority of it, and you like his personality, for you to switch that would take a fair amount of research and reason, and then to know that people are going to come at you for it too. It's so much easier to just be like, Donnie for life. He's my daddy. Like, I get it, but that's the thing. That was the thing. And to Anomaly's credit, dude, he was one of the first people that I really saw pointing out the stuff that really went down. And he was like, look, if you guys all want to chase him around and keep following the same shit and taking L's, then go for it. But he's like, this is just what I'm seeing. And it really gave me a lot of, I almost want to say, like, not confidence, but it's like he forged the path of that belief structure where I was like, what if he's right? And I really started going through it, and it's like, what happened on the 6th to me was just so, like, just such an L. And I'm like, fuck. It's
and
like
both of us were there. I mean,
Well, we might have been there.
Well, I have an FBI agent, so I was there.
Nice. Well, I'm just saying, like, that's the thing, is that it's like sometimes it takes a person to step out with an unpopular opinion, and I gave him a lot of credit for that. And a lot of what he was saying to me was spot on and accurate. And the more that I looked into it and viewed it from that perspective after, the less tribal I was being with my belief, where it was like, oh, Donnie did this, it must be because it was an accident. It's like you give him the pass because you don't see enough people saying it. So it's like, if I have to be the 2nd or 3rd or 15th or 100th or whatever voice it is that's doing that, this is just what I see. And I see a lot of other people coming out and saying the same, not because they're following along or that they're anti-Donnie. It's just like they realize we want to win.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree. And you were in the DC area. I was actually, very close to the Capitol. And I love. By the way, I keep doing change of topic, but Elon Musk on Tucker talking about how Twitter, how the CIA, FBI, all of these had access to the direct messages because they're not encrypted. I can tell you, and I will say that whoever I may know from the FBI that may have been a good dude, and I'm going to say that he's a good dude, but I can tell you they had access to my direct messages. I know this because of some of the conversations that they had. They knew things that nobody else would know unless they had access to my direct message. So it's not just Twitter.
It's all things. Watch Citizen 4. Watch the documentary on Edward Snowden called Citizen 4, and you'll see that they have access to everything.
And Elon Musk is trying to make sure they can't do direct message or do DMs if they do encrypted options, which is interesting. I like Elon Musk.
Yes, and Amelie actually asked me that same question. He's like, "Do you believe that does make it like purely unhackable?" And it's like, maybe.
Yeah,
I would. It might be unhackable on the Elon side of things, but we don't know what they really have. We don't know we don't know the supercomputers. We don't know how much they're processing. And then on top of all that, stuff is flying through the air. It's flying on towers. Like, there's a lot of ways that things can be intercepted. So it's like, who's to really know that there can't be pattern recognition? I don't know.
I know. I think it's encrypted in the direct message, and it is not. I do believe that it's not. However, these aren't. So these you can get into. If you can get into these, then you can get into the direct messages.
Right. If I could screen watch your screen, then the encryption. That's kind of what I meant. Is like, you're always being. I remember my buddy a bunch of years ago. We would always talk about conspiracy stuff, and he had gotten into some calamity, and he was like, I went to this station, the police station or whatever it was, and he said, and there was a big screen on the wall, and it was like every text message I ever sent, like, in my life, like on one thing. And he's like, it was like every message ever. So, and he's like on every social and everything. So, you know, and like the thing that also I think is sad is that like the court of public opinion is being used to smear people in all these cases. Like, and I just think about it sometimes where it's like, if you're a person that is on social and you have all these things where you're talking about objective facts and you got all these live streams and whatever, and there happens to be some situation, maybe an accident or something that happens later in life, it's like they're going to take that and weaponize that back against you. Forget about the screen shares and all the rest of that stuff, which is there. But it's like, how about all of the creators that are out here talking about these things? It's like, we really are taking a risk. Not that I'm looking for any sympathy, but it's like, This is the fight, sadly.
Yeah. All right. We're going to do a little hot seat to wrap this up. I'm going to ask some questions. You can respond quickly or do like a little ditty about them. But, you know, just typical everyday, sometimes conspiracy theories or questions about topics and current events. So first off, first question, did the moon landing happen?
Well, if I had to guess, if I had to guess, I would say yes. But I think the circumstances surrounding why we never went there again, and the fact that like the technology got thrown out or deleted by accident, I think is insane. I would wager that my guess would be yes, but maybe we didn't like what we found. So they were like, we're not going there again. So whether they, I don't know that they saw an alien, but I think that there's a lot of evidence that points to it not have been happening. So but if I had to guess, I would say yes once. But got it. Okay.
I've gotten a wide range. I mean, 3 years ago, I would think that you're a jackass for even questioning it. And now I don't believe it happened. I do. There's other people that have said, I believe it happened, just not the way that we saw it. They think that we went and that wasn't the time. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at it. So.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I don't know. It's hard to say, but like a lot of the pictures that I've seen they're like, that looks like tinfoil or whatever. Yeah,
it does. It does a little bit.
Tinfoily.
So you've been on a lot of cool shows. You've been on Frisella's, Brad Lee's. I mean, you've done news hits for, I think now Newsmax, Fox. I believe you've been on Fox.
Not Fox, but Newsmax, Newsmax, OAN, the Victory Channel, and I feel like there was another one.
But a lot of cool podcasts.
And I was on Alex Jones. I was on InfoWars.
Oh, I didn't know you. Oh no, I did know you were on InfoWars. That's right.
Yeah, not with Alex, but I was on InfoWars in a segment where he had Maria Z host. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so all the different things. You don't have to brag. I get it, Bobby. All the different things you've been on. What has been your favorite podcast where you've got to experience as a guest?
I think Real AF with Andy was the most impactful because it was the first one. It was like the totality of it all. It's like from the experience to how they treated me when I was there to building the relationship with Andy and the other people that worked there, and then becoming like an ambassador Legionnaire later on, and all the great friends and stuff that I've met there. The totality of it all. And the fact that it was such a good boost to a lot of people that really value his opinion. To me, that was just the most fun.
I dig it. All right. Yeah. Let's see. That's going to be a longer one, so let's try to end on that. All right. Do you believe the story of Helen Keller?
No. I think it's all bullshit. I think her handler, the person that was writing all of her stuff,
Ann Sullivan.
Yeah, I think that's who it was. Yeah, and probably the nefarious actors that were using her to push all this woke shit.
Yeah, we don't even know. I mean, people don't even realize how big of a socialist she became. I did a whole video, and this is a paradigm thing, and this is the way that I always tell people. I go, okay, if you believe Helen Keller really happened, first off, tell me how it's never happened again where somebody that young in 120 years, and now we're, I guess, 140 years, has never been, that's a deaf blind person from that age has never even made it to being a functional adult in 120 years, let alone write 30 books and learn really long words and stuff.
Bro, didn't they say she flew a plane?
Okay, so I did a whole video. I did a whole video of this, and there was a pilot there, and because I got on a Helen Keller kick. I don't know how I did. I got on a Helen Keller kick, and there's first off, there's no way to explain it. There really isn't. You can't. People go, well, she was able to feel that it was a cat. You have no frame of reference. It's a completely impossible. There is no logic that matches, especially in the 1800s. The plane thing I played. There's an interesting clip. If you Google Helen Keller flies a plane, watch it. She gets in the driver's seat. I do believe she's a real person.
Oh, yeah, obviously. Real person, yes.
I think that's obvious. Sorry. I think not only is she a real person, I think she had a disability. I do think she was pretty intelligent, but I think that she was able to either hear or see. One of the two. I think she was able to hear. I think this whole thing looks like an SNL skit. When they're doing the hand stuff, I'm like, oh my God, we watched these videos and we thought they were real. I think they're bullshit. But if you watch the flight, her getting on, there is a guy talking when she is on the plane and she's almost reacting to the words. And I'm like, oh, this bitch can hear. She has. So at one point, watch that clip. It'll take you 2 seconds and you'll see it's like, there's nobody that could be within range while this guy's mouth is moving and she's reacting. It doesn't make any sense. So I think she could.
Yeah, I think Flecka's pointed this out, and he was the one recently that had gone into it pretty extensively, and I was like, "Yep, that sounds like bullshit."
Who did it?
Flecka's Talks, the podcast.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, Flecka's, yeah.
I'll look that up.
Austin Fletcher,
I love the Helen. Chad O'Jackson and I have had that conversation too.
Yeah, he has a shirt that he sells. It's Helen Keller Denier.
That's actually really good.
Yeah,
I like it. I think we're down to the final. Oh no, 2 more. Is Elon Musk the Antichrist or savior or neither?
Neither. Okay. I would say he's more savior than Antichrist. I think it's hard to look at his track record over time and all the things that he's done and just be like, this guy is just objectively bad. I just think that my read on him is that he's doing good things consistently for the most part. Maybe not all of them, but it's like, how are you going to suggest that this guy is just purely bad when he's revealing things that are validating true things and giving voices back to people who had him silent? It's
weird.
To me, it's like,
good.
I'm certainly glad he's there, and I'm glad he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, was it Steve Bannon that went ham on him? Was it Bannon?
I don't know. I don't really watch the War Room or anything like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I know he's got some great takes, but it's not it's not in my regular rotation. I don't listen to it very often.
And then last but not least, besides where you're going to go with your life, I think we already know the answer: DeSantis or Trump, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of time between now and the election. So if I had to choose right now, I would say DeSantis. The reason why is because I believe that the 10% of people that will ultimately decide the election that are left, or middle right, or whatever you want to say, that sit in the middle, those 10% of people will determine the election. Those people will not determine who they're going to vote for until the last 90 to 120 days, and that may be generous. It's probably more like the last 60 days. What happens in that 60 days will be a matter of brand and marketing. And unfortunately, the primary is far more significant in our world, but I think that he has a better chance of getting those people in the middle. And as a result of maybe not liking certain things about him, but generally feeling that he does a good job of packaging the message, the marketing message, and doing things that are good for the people consistently, I think that he would be a better steward of the message. And I think that having him get in potentially for an 8-year stretch would be better than a 4-year of Donnie, where they would be fighting tooth and nail and it would just be this mayhem. I don't think it's realistic to think that Trump could be the president and it wouldn't be very high tension. And it's like, I'm not saying that is enough to count him out, because it is what it is, let him squeal, but I just don't think that he wins in the general. I don't think he wins in the general against Biden, which is really sad. But I really don't think that he does. And that's the thing that kills me is it's just like he's not doing enough to change his image. And I made a comment when I was talking to Anomaly before where I was like, we have to remember something. There's people that have been beefing for 10 years, 15 years, family members, friends, that they'll see each other in person. They'll be like, look, man, I'm sorry. And here's what I'm going to do to fix it. And they'll hug it out and it all is gone like that.
Yeah.
That's how quick a change of messaging and marketing can be. So it's like if he turns it around and changes these things, I do believe that he could and would be a great leader of the nation. But as of right now, I'm not seeing that. And that's why I would say DeSantis is a better candidate to get those other 10% of people and ultimately win presently. That could change, but that's where I'm at right now.
Do you think there's any chance DeSantis won't run?
Well, I don't have any insider intel, but I would say no.
Yeah.
Because to me, the actions that he's been taking lately have been very not governor of Florida-y.
Right.
Like the ads and the travel and stuff. It just seems in the book, it just seems to me like he's following a formula, which I don't really have a problem with. Florida is doing well, but it's kind of interesting. Like when he was governor of Florida all the time, only like in the last 4 years, it was like there was always wins. There was always things happening. And interestingly enough, even though he's doing this traveling, I'm still seeing wins. We just got constitutional carry the other day. I just saw something today about like death penalty for child sex offenders, and then he's working on the Reedy Creek stuff with Disney. It's like this guy's still cooking. He's putting points on the board, and it's like I don't know. I think it's like that might be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. All right, last thing, just to wrap up. What are your plans? Like, obviously, you've grown your social media following. Do you have political plans? Do you have a lifelong growth in this industry? What do you got coming up, and what is long-term goals?
I will do whatever I believe is the highest and best use of my capacity, wherever that takes me. I don't have political aspirations necessarily from like something that I want to do standpoint, but I do believe that it would be hypocritical of me to suggest over the whole course of my life that all these people suck if I didn't believe that I could maybe do it better to some degree. So although I don't have necessarily aspirations of that, if that was to materialize and be the case, I would certainly entertain it. My goal is to just maximize the gift that my parents and God and whatever gave me to the best of my abilities. If that was being the president or being the governor of Florida or whatever, or if it was just being an influential media personality or a person that just had a great family. I'm not going to get too hung up on what it looks like. I'm just going to keep advancing. Honestly, a lot of it is public now, so you can see, and I'm just going to see where it takes me.
Appreciate it. That's good stuff. Last words for what people would think was going on in this country. Positive words with the direction from here, if you haven't.
Well, there's been so much. I feel like this has been a really very interesting and good podcast or show. So I would just say, understand that the election, the next election, is won by figuring out how to get those 10% of people. The only thing that matters, in my opinion, from here going forward, is marketing and branding of the message, focusing on the things that we're strong at and figuring out how to get the 10%. Everything else to me is noise.
Love it. You'll be seeing, if you come to the Great American Summit, which you can go to greatamericansummit.com. You can use Bobby. What's your code? Is it Take Naps?
I actually don't know. I'm not sure what the code is.
I'll go ahead and throw it up on the bottom while we're, whenever I put this up. But I believe as though it's Take Naps. You throw that up there, you get 10% off. It's June 1st through the 3rd. The first night is Dr. Peter McCullough. That's just an evening event. He launches it. And then we've got Chad Prather, Jenna McKay, David Webb, Bobby Sauce, Chad O'Jackson. We got a whole laundry list of people. It marries business with a little bit of having a little fun with patriotism. It's like CPAC meets. That reminds me, I got to get back with the TPUSA people. forgot to do that. So CPAC meets like a Grant Cardone type thing. So it's a lot of fun. I look forward to meeting you again or seeing you again. Got to meet you last time. Seeing you in person, and make sure you follow Bobby at Take Naps, and also go to StreamRare.com for that media company. Everybody have a great rest of your day, evening, whenever you're watching that. God bless. Take it easy. And this was a blunt force discussion. I was going to say truth will set you free. It doesn't work. Whatever.